Hi, this is the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. Welcome back. We are exploring understanding body pain. This is part of a trilogy. And we're exploring how pain reveals itself in the body and then the ways that we can listen to restore alignment, energy, and vitality. I'm Dr. Michelle Greenwell, and today for our final episode, we are talking about the spine and the neck and the central pillars of posture, movement, and communication. And we don't always think of communication when we're thinking about the spine and the neck, so this is going to be a really interesting way for you to experience what we know about the body through Chinese medicine and the work of Dr. George Goodhart and Dr. Thie. So we've been following along. We've done hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders. And then last episode was the feet, the ankles, the knees, and the hips. And each episode has been building on the last one. It's offering insight into muscles, meridians, organ system relationships, biofeedback, and the priority that you can have for self-care. Today, we're going to tie it all together with a focus on the spine and neck, areas that influence balance, brain function, posture, and organ systems. So joining me today, Dr. Denise Cambiotti. Welcome back, Denise. Denise is an expert in muscle monitoring, biofeedback, and holistic wellness. And we also have Kate Montgomery, naturopathic doctor, and an author and bodywork expert whose work with athletes, musicians, and performers has shown remarkable effects for posture, alignment, and energetic balance. Kate, thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Now, you know that before we start any conversation, I want to set you up with a healing session so that your time spent here is very worth your while. Not only are you going to learn something, but we're also going to be able to help you find some harmony and balance within your systems. And we always do that by bringing in the idea of tea and intention. So I'm going to ask Denise, what have you put into your cup today?
Guess what drew me? Oh, here we go. Honeybee from the Cape Breton Tea Company. And I have to take the opportunity to open it up again. And it's just like, my son, the vegan's worried about getting into this. This is there is no actual honey in it. Don't worry about it. No animal was harmed doing this tea. But I love the intention this morning. Feel the boost to your spirit and the playfulness and joy that transpires. A zest to life is encouraged with each sip. And for that, I brought out the glass to enjoy the color and the aroma.
Oh, okay. That's really delightful.
Yeah. Apple, hibiscus, rosehip, vanilla, honeybush, and ginger with a little, it's just yum.
Beautiful. Thank you, Denise. And I so appreciate you put it into the wine glass. You can hold the stem. And as it cools off, then the hand gets to go up and hold the color. And as people are listening to this, color is so powerful for changing the body. And we don't think about that when we're sipping on beverages or eating food. We know we put the colorful vegetables in, but really connecting to the color. So it looks lovely. It matches your top today.
We're in a warm mood today.
All right. So we have the intention of honeybee, which is fantastic. And Kate, what have you got today?
Well, I decided to do an English breakfast tea with a little bit of coconut oil and ginger. I added a little bit of ginger root to it. So it's different. I've never done that before. So I thought I'd start throwing things in the pot and see how it came out. Yeah, actually, it's pretty good. So it's warming and it's cold here. So it's very warming. And I haven't done that for a while. So I thought, well, the ginger and everything else, wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did today.
Perfect. And for those people that are hearing about the addition of ginger, ginger brings to you today in this podcast and your healing portion is the ability to release so that you can receive. And some people forget to let go. They want things to be attracted to them, but they forget they've got to let go too, so that there's space and room. So thank you for adding the ginger in.
Yes.
And the black tea is always wonderful. So I'm going to introduce you to Releasing the Warrior. This is the only tea blend in the whole fleet on the Cape Breton Tea Company that when you smell it, you either like it or you hate it. And if you like it, it is your tea. It chooses you. And so today, it was funny because I got all steeping and the whiff came across and it was like, oh, I have missed that. So just that feeling of coming home that happens with these different blends. So the affirmation is linked to the wood element. This blend supports opening up to express what is most important, to nourish, rejuvenate, and reorganize for full potential. And as we dive into the back and the neck today, it's that full potential that comes through the spine that is so powerful for the way the rest of the body functions. And so this tea just brings us to that. I want to feature licorice root and juniper berries. This is designing for, licorice root is for compassion and inner strength. And sometimes we don't have patience with ourselves and we don't provide ourselves with the self-care we need. So this is a reminder. Licorice root reminds us. Get rid of those rigid patterns of tension and support the emotional and structural backbone of our being. And if we bring in the juniper berries, we're associated with purification, courage, and letting go of those things no longer serving us, same as ginger, and particularly the tension stored in the neck and shoulders. So this is going to encourage us to soften the desire to push through, embrace surrendering, and then reconnecting to our authentic self-expression. All right, lots here. I'm going to also suggest the affirmation because we're talking about neck and spine. I release tension and open my spine and neck to strength, clarity, and ease. All right, so as Denise did, taking that first smell, bringing that in, going through to the limbic system, the motor system, and then sipping.
Well, I'm just going to say how interesting it is that you have licorice today, and Kate and I have the ginger. And in my world, both of those are very adaptogenic, very good for the adrenals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're stressed out, go find yourself, even whack off a little bit of actual ginger and just steep it in some water and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And then the realization of how powerful that herb is to you, rather than it's just another beverage, because it's so much more. And it loves it when you draw attention to it, so it shines even more. And I think all of us are like that. When somebody recognizes us and see our smile, and we say, hey, I see you, they light up. Somebody saw me. I'm recognized. Perfect. Okay, so let's dive in because we kind of walked around. We went to the limbs, and so now we're looking at what really happens in the core of the body. And Denise, I wanted to start with you today with spine connecting to the muscles and other tissues and organ systems. So how does the spine connect?
When I was introduced to chiropractic the very, very first time, the doctor had asked me what were my conditions, and I had recurring neck pain. I had lifelong constipation. I'd had recurring bladder issues the previous year, and the headaches. And he told me everything was connected, and I went, "You've got to be crazy! Because what's up here and the what's down there, and what structure in the body goes from here to here?" So I was so oblivious to this. And most people who just get up, go to work every day, take care of the kids, and just rinse and repeat all the time, we are not thinking about the health of our spine. And I'm so grateful to that chiropractor. After that very first appointment, I'm sleeping, my headaches are gone, I'm pooping every day. I'm like I'm feeling so good. Let me say, I was talking about this at the lunchroom all the time at work. And she's like, you've got to go see this chiropractor. I feel like $1,000,000. Everything's working. But more than that, since then, I got introduced to the system called Touch for Health. And I decided I wanted to specialize in making as simple as for people to do as possible, to learn online. And I write blogs and I do videos. And one of them was about, there's several that connect to the spine. So let me just rope myself together for a moment. And I'd like to share a graphic. So for the people who are not watching a screen but listening, this graphic is basically, it's a little schematic. It represents a wall. Let me see if I can make it bigger. It represents a wall and a swing door like you might find at a restaurant, a diner where they run in and out with plates. And so the door, when you push on it, can push into the kitchen area or from the kitchen out to the dining room. And we had a door like that in my old home when I grew up. And when everything's in balance, when the cables, the wires holding the door in place are at the right tension, the door always swings back to perpendicular. It's always at 90 degrees to the wall. Everything's lined up flush. It looks great, works great. And this is very representative of our structure in our body. But what happens, I got to shrink it to get to this picture. What happens is sometimes you see one side has knots in it. It gets all twisted up and it's pulling on the door. And on the other side, it's stretched out. And Kate, I know when you've done massage, you have a lot of people going, it's tight here. I want you to work here, like massage in here. And whether it's there, whether it's between the shoulder blades, whether it's your lower back, if the side that's stretched out, that's labeled weak for this moment, if it can't pull back, that's what's causing the knot. So we have to work on the side that's not working so well. And I'll just show you a picture. Here's a sailboat where, sorry, I'm having trouble running my screen. Everybody knows what a sailboat's supposed to look like, right? The mast is nice and tall and straight and centered there. But what happens if it is not? So here's a representation, and I think they have done this on purpose, but some lines are tighter on one side than on the other. Mm-hmm. And when you're looking up, from the deck, imagine that the white mast is the spine, and then you've got things that go off to the neck, to the thorax or the torso, and down into the lumbar area. Look how complicated it is for all those lines to be keeping equal tension so everything is nice and trim and functional. And when we think about this in the scope of the body, we can have a vertebrae that goes out of alignment, never mind muscles. I alluded to, Kate, people that come go, oh, my tense neck. We have to work on the front of the body, get the front muscles firing and working, because these have to work in coordination for you to hold this 20-pound bowling ball on top of your spine. What about the muscles in the chest and the back? And how many people have I observed that the pec muscles aren't firing? And I'll look at them and I go, do you have a lot of tension between your shoulder blades? And they're going, how do you know that at night? I'm trying to get my wife to work that out. And it says, well, it's because these muscles aren't working to hold you straight. So the ones in the back are trying to do all. And they get really tight and they get cranky, and that equals pain. Now, if you look at that, even on the muscles and the ligaments on either side of each segment of the spine, if they're getting pulled one way and there's not enough equal pull on the other side, you're going to get a vertebral subluxation, is what it's called. And so if you go to a chiropractor that's constantly jamming that bone back into place over and over and over, and it keeps coming out, now here's a muscle tuner specialist here telling you, can you remember to get somebody to work on the muscles so that the muscle is happy and it's doing its job so the other guy's pulling it out of alignment because the one guy's not showing up for work? There needs to be equal tension. So this is just so critical in our spine. And I'll just wrap up by saying our nervous system sends neurons up and down the spine, and there are nerves that exit at every vertebrae that go to run every muscle of the body, run every organ, and run every gland. And so if your vertebrae aren't aligned optimally, they could be putting some pressure on some nerves. And most people would recognize that equals pain. Besides the pain, it's also pointing to a deeper issue with the muscle, organ, tissue, whatever it is, that is not getting the proper communication from the brain. So from head to foot, if the messages can't go through, you have disorganization, you have lack of coordination, either at the invisible neurological level or very much on the physical level. People will go, why am I dropping things so much these days? Why am I stumbling? Why am I falling down? Why is it hard to get out of my easy boy chair all of a sudden? We have to look at the muscles. We have to look at the spine. And there are many people that can do this. You just have to find them. That's it for me.
Thank you, Denise. And I thought this is a good opportunity to take a moment for those people listening and check in with their posture. So I'm anticipating most of them are sitting. They might be driving. They might be at their desk. They might be on the couch. What I'd encourage you to do is pull up on your ears right at the top and see if when you pull up on your ears, is your posture in alignment that you didn't have to make any changes to it? Everything was perfectly straight? Or as you did that pull, did you notice that your chest did a little rise in the front and the sternum lifted? Maybe your shoulders dropped and maybe the head came from being forward, came back. Mm-hmm. That stress is what Denise is talking about with exactly the way the door was working. That just holding that posture, which you think is a normal posture, might not be. And this little trick of just pulling up and finding out, are you in alignment, can be very helpful for realizing you've got more stress happening in the system. So let's move on from there now that you know whether or not your spine was where you wanted it to be. So Kate, you have had a lot of experience with the athletes, with musicians, especially musicians holding positions for long periods of time, practicing and playing in concert. Can you share a bit about their posture and alignment and how it's affecting health, performance, and endurance?
Yes, I have a great story. When I was researching everything and putting things together, I remembered this story. And it's about musicians, specifically a violinist. Because in the early 2000s, I was in Boulder, Colorado, and I took a class from an optometrist, Dr. Cleve Armstrong. And his was on vision and posture, but he specifically talked about a violinist. And when you look at a violinist, they have the violin cocked in their ear, into their neck, stretching and shortening on one side. But then it also takes out the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist and hand. But his thing was that he started talking about muscles, which was why I took this course in the first place. And he didn't do muscle testing, but he showed, because there had been a study, that when the violinist cocked into the right side, the left side created a tension specifically in the left eye, which caused astigmatism. And he showed us all the stuff, and I have all the papers for it. But And then he had a certain technique. So he looked at the erector spinae and he looked at the IT band and he looked at muscles specifically. Well, I took that course and I learned a lot. And I thought, well, I'm going to put this to test because I was doing Touch for Health. So I went to the University of Colorado at Boulder, the music department, where they teach music and the violinist. And I did a whole thing on carpal tunnel, but I also talked about the eyes. And I asked the question, is anyone here having a left vision problem? And it surprised me how many people raise their hands. And they're all young. They're not old. They're in their, 18 to 20 age groups and more. And a couple came to see me. And when I started muscle testing the upper body and lower body, specifically looking at the muscles that he had spoken about, sure enough. And the response was, I've had these horrible headaches and my jaw bothers me. And so we did the hand wrist thing, but it was all about the neck. And then he said, sometimes I just don't remember my music. So we looked at when the neck is out of position and it's there for a long period of time, it creates a distortion that not only decreases circulation, blood flow to the brain and throughout the body, but the eyes and the ears, everything gets affected, and your senses do too, taste, everything. And he was telling me about all this, what was really going on with him. And so we started working and I started doing all my stuff and over a period of a month, he was so surprised how everything ironed out. He started rubbing his own points and following what needed to get done. And and he couldn't thank me. And also the other thing that happened several months later, he said, my vision changed. His left eye astigmatism went down away, and the eye doctor didn't know why. So, so that was another thing that just a side effect of everything. And so you watch these young people who are starting out in the musical world very young, and yet you look at their postures and not everybody is sitting up straight. You look at a guitarist and they're actually sometimes holding the guitar and they're bent over it. So there goes your spine all the way up. And so the whole curve changes. And then you look at the arms and everything. So everything is interrelated, but the posture will shorten and distort the nerve so that you don't have 100% into your organs and glands and to the muscles. So you look at all the muscles of the low back and the front and everything. So if I'm bent forward, there goes my breathing, my diaphragm has a problem. And then if I sing while I play, well, if I'm bent over, that puts a strain on that muscle. He can't get enough air. Okay. So those are the things that they're not really aware of. They're playing in their head, in their heart, and they're just playing really hard, but they don't realize the consequences of what's really going on over a period of time. I thought that the story with the violinist was amazing. And I worked with a violinist here in Indiana a long time ago and did all this stuff with her. And there it was. And she was older and same thing, found all the same stuff that she'd been having, the same issues, things. But what's nice about all this work is that it reverses things very quickly, actually. And so one of the things I wanted to show you is behind me is this chart. It's a Touch for Health chart. So when we talk about the science behind everything that we are doing, there is a method to our madness here. And all the geniuses, as I call them, who put together all this stuff, who made it possible, where they hunt and pecked and trial and error and found, all these, the neurovasculars and neurolymphatics and everything. And they put it together and showed all the connections through everything from acupuncture through all this stuff. So we didn't make it up. So I wanted to put something up that showed this. And then there's also the Touch for Health book, which you can buy, and it's anywhere you can buy it. And so don't be afraid to buy stuff. But yes, I have mine right here too. I have mine too. There it is. And science. This is science. This isn't hocus pocus or voodoo or anything else. And when I started, it was considered that. So it was really hard overcoming because I loved what I was doing. But people, when I went to different places in the country, did not know anything. And it was just magic to them. If you rub a point and the muscle is now strong and connected to the nervous system, and now it's functioning and I can run faster and things like that. Same thing with my athletes. It's like, it's not just musicians. It's anything that somebody has a goal who wants to be better physically and energetically so that everything inside works like clockwork. And there's a balance, there's a pendulum. And you find that pendulum, and once the thing is balanced and pendulum is swinging and it stops. And that's just like Denise was showing. You have that bilateral balance, and then the runner can run faster. He's not thinking about his pain. See, that was one of the nicest things that we discovered, was that if you are totally balanced, your focus is on the run. It's not on the soreness in my leg, or I have this stitch in my side, because you've already taken care of and balanced things. And then you keep rubbing points, which is what I taught in the Ironman. And the thing is that they didn't think about anything but what they were destined to do. That's the gift of what this does. It takes away the pain, and it takes away the toxicity, and it detoxes the body while you are actually doing the sport. Not every sport you can do all this stuff, but in that one you could. And that was the true gift, because I said, well, how did you do? He says, I never thought about anything. I just did the run. Yay, that's what you want. And it's simple then. And then they go on and they forget. They absolutely forget how it used to be in other races once they learn this. The mind is amazing how they just sort of blank out all that stuff before. And it's an injury prevention too. So if we're bilaterally balanced and I'm running with ease, and my one foot goes with the other, and they just go right through this, but you're running with no injury. It could happen because I'm not limping, I'm not straining, I don't have an imbalance in a quadricep or the hamstrings, and my hips are even. So I'm not thinking about that because I'm running evenly. That's injury prevention, and that aids in recovery. And so those are the things that, are so important in looking at everything that we do. So this is a magic for me. This is magic, but it's science magic. And as Denise has said before, there's a lot of research done, and it shows that it works. And I'm proud to be part of this, because I've been in it a long time. And again, I would work on these athletes. I have this real quickie, was before I got to Touch for Health, I remember I was really good at sports massage. I was really good at what I did. But what got me into this was when a client got off the table and says, but it still hurts right here. And so my chiropractors did AK, applied kinesiology, and then I found out about Touch for Health, and I went to my first conference, and I knew the light bulbs went on. I mean, just on. And I just went, I'm here. And I took my first Touch for Health course, and I took off running. And I told every athlete that I worked with, I got something new. You're never going to have that pain again. And then I got the charts, and I had all these other charts that showed trigger points and the maps of the nervous system into all the organs. And I educated them about, this is what we're doing. And they never hesitated. That's what sometimes you think when you have something new, they don't want to know anything new. They just want you to do the massage. Ah, no, not mine, because mine was goal oriented. These guys all had goals. They wanted to win the gold medal. They wanted to win an Ironman, or they wanted a personal best. That's a goal. And anything you can give them that will accomplish that, they'll do. No hesitation, not one. I was in a gym one time doing stuff for carpal tunnel, and Mike was filming me, and we had all these big guys in there lifted weights and doing everything. And so I was walking around just doing hands and necks and looking at stuff. And I said, well, here is this big dude, and he's going to bench press 300 pounds. And he couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. So I walked over and I did something with his elbow and I did something with his wrist. And then I said, okay, now do it. And he did. He just went, and every guy in that gym saw it. And everybody came over and said, here's my arm, do what you did. So it was really interesting, so that just little things that can improve performance, and then injury prevention and recovery. Recovery is the biggest thing. So that if you're teaching somebody to rub neurolymphatic reflex points while they're running, which would be your psoas, your quadriceps, and what else was, and diaphragm, and they're following exactly what you tell them to do, they come in at 12 o'clock tired, but you would not know that their legs had run this race, because I could massage them exactly like I did before. And when I muscle tested them, oh, it was amazing that the quads were still strong. They didn't test weak, nothing. Everything was still connected. It's because they constantly rubbed points. And that's what the detoxification process, you have no buildup of lactic acid and debris and anything that could create toxic waste within the muscles themselves. That's what you want. But you don't also have to be an Ironman triathlete to do this stuff. You can be 98 and still do this stuff, and you would still have everything working the way you want it to, and give you the unbelievable life and quality that you want, so that you don't do this. I've I've had some very interesting phone calls in my life. This short one was, I worked with this lady in La Jolla, and did the low back ritual with her. And she had gone to New York to the opera, and at about no, I'm in California and she's in New York. So I get this phone call, and she's on the phone. They're having they're in recess. They're in, for the, you know, from the opera. And she says, my back is killing me. What can I do? And she's on the phone in the hall in a dress. And I'm saying, okay, do this, do this, do this. And she's going, and so I was trying to picture it. She's rubbing points on the phone in the hallway in an opera. And she did them. And she's, oh, I feel so much better now. It's gone. Bye. It was the last time I heard from her too. And that was one, but stuff like that, and they know what works because they've used it before.
Mhm.
I had a lady who had asthma, and her friends were down in Balboa Park in San Diego, and she started having an asthma attack. And she didn't have her inhaler or anything, but for some reason one of the ladies called me and says, she's having an asthma attack. So I said, okay, rub these points, rub this, run the meridian for the lungs, do this, and release the diaphragm. And they're all doing it to this lady. I'm sure everybody was wondering what they were doing, but all of a sudden you heard her breathe, just heard her breathe. And they're going, she's fine, she's breathing, she's okay. Keep doing it. It's okay. Tell her to, give her sips of water, just do this. And they said, thank you so much. We're on our way now into the park. It didn't stop them. But those are the things that it's so important, to give somebody a sense of I didn't have to take a drug. I didn't have to have a shot. I didn't have to have an inhaler right there with me because I didn't have them. But I had control and I knew that this would help. And that's what Touch for Health does. That's what Denise's work does. That's what all the applied kinesiologists in the world have done, from Goodhart to Chapman to Bennett, to all of them. This is what they brought us. And I'm lucky that I found it when I was 35. And so that just opened a door for me that I'd never stopped, because I always see it. If you watch people walk, I'm a very good observer. I love to just sit and watch people. And when we would do races with the San Diego sports massage team, I would just sit and watch runners. How can you even run when you're bent over like that? So you see, yes, exactly, Denise. And you see the symmetry is so off, but the endorphins have kicked in, and so they're running, shuffling, hardly using the psoas muscle, which is a hip flexor, to lift your legs, and they're bent over. So all these nerves are being impinged along the spine, but they're running. So you get to see all types of people, all types of postures and everything, no matter where you are. And you just recognize that when you sit up straight and tall, you open up everything. That opens up the whole nervous system. That opens up blood flow, your lymphatic system. Everything opens up. No more brain fog. Cognition is there. Everything works. It's one big picture. And that's what we try to do every day with this right here. That's my spiel for right now.
Thank you, Kate. We've got lots to unpack within that. I had so many ideas that were coming in. So as people are listening and realizing that doing little activities changes the posture, brings us back into the picture that Denise so beautifully shared with us, because it's so easy to think about a sailboat and what the mast looks like and what all the ropes look like. And then where in the body are we in that place? And that we can, in action, change things. We don't have to wait until we get to somebody who knows how to do that. We can learn those techniques and we can apply them as we're involved in something, which is amazing. And if you do notice that you're running bent over, or you're doing an activity that you're slightly twisted, you don't have to stay there. You can actually change it, improve the function, and off you go, which is just so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's dive in a little bit deeper. Denise, I wanted to chat a little bit about loss of neck mobility, because that happens as people age and they think it's aging. They don't realize it's just function. So this can affect hearing, swallowing, the voice, digestive enzyme production. How might people be reducing their level of function by holding their neck in those misaligned positions?
Right.
Well, it's a huge subject, and I'm just going to keep it as simple and short as possible. So much in your nervous system is initiated from how your eyes connect to your neck, connect to your body. And if you cannot turn your head equally and at a decent range of motion on one side, for those listeners, I just turned my head to one side and then the other, and I am noticing I am not turning as far and I'm feeling tension when I look to the left. It's an easy check. Now, that's causing ripples through the whole body, because you have proprioceptors. Those are little neurological signaling units in your spine that are noticing, and also in your ears, that are noticing what's going on. Are you getting ready to fall over? Do I need to tighten some muscles up? Do I need to loosen some muscles up? So if you fall, you won't hurt yourself. And if all of that mechanism isn't working naturally. I like to call it at factory original settings or original factory settings. It is causing, even if you're not falling, you're causing inappropriate tension levels through the whole rest of your body. And you might think the tension's just in your neck, and it is definitely having effects in other places. This can impact your hearing, but not only your hearing, but can you recall what you've heard? Do you sit in on a meeting and then go, I can't remember what we talked about 2 minutes ago or an hour ago, can't remember it. Not able to, and what if you're a student listening to lectures and you need to remember that information so you can pass a test? Or, would be nice if you could take that information and apply it in your life when appropriate. It begins with a lot of things with the neck, believe it or not. Swallowing can be affected. And in my line of work, like in Touch for Health, we learned that the muscles in the front of the neck and the back of the neck are connected to the stomach meridian. In advanced classes, I've learned that the jaw muscle is most of the jaw muscles all connected to the stomach meridian. We also have nerves that go out of our neck that come down our arm that connect to the stomach meridian or its energetic partner. And so if these guys are not in cooperation with one another, it's like having kids squabbling in the back seat while you're on a cross-country drive. It's annoying your nervous system. Now, the importance of the neck muscles being connected to the stomach is between chewing and the stomach. The first step of digestion can be completely off kilter. Mm-hmm. And then that causes all kinds of challenges downstream where the food gets to your small intestine and it's not able to be digested properly because the stomach didn't do its job properly. And then the small intestine says, I give up. Let's just pass this on through to the large intestine. Then the large intestine can't do its job properly neither. And these organs are about absorbing, assimilating, and utilizing the nutrition in your food. And it starts with the chewing muscles on the stomach meridian. It starts with the stomach producing the right amount of acid. Again, the stomach totally connected to the neck. And so if you have digestive issues, you've got to deal with the neck and or the area of the back that connects to the stomach, which was brilliant for me. I had no idea when my chiropractor gave me that adjustment. He did neck and he did between my shoulder blades. Changed my absolute world. My posture improved. My mother always said, stop schlumping, right? I was always sitting schlumped. And I would sit up straight for about 5.5 seconds until something distracted me. My posture was set at the wrong tone. Also, muscles on the front of the chest, if they're not firing, some of those muscles are on the stomach meridian. So when your stomach is getting the neurological signal, when the lymphatics are flowing, when the vascular blood system is reaching those muscles, it's a heck of a lot easier to sit up straight. One day I walked into my chiropractor's office and said, I can't believe this. I ran like 2 days ago. I had an occasion I had to go run. I ran, and I didn't run like a girl with my hands flopping all over the place. I ran like a normal person. And he just smiled and he went, mm-hmm. And I had no idea that all. And then that's when I noticed my posture was aligned, as Kate was saying. It was natural to move my body. I wasn't efforting to raise my legs. I was breathing properly, all because the posture was reset and I wasn't slumping over, putting pressure on my lungs. Or imagine the poor digestive organs. If all your weight slumped forward, your stomach's contracted or and that goes all the way through downstream. So I said I'd keep it short. I hope I've kept it simple. It is just important. If you've got problems in the neck, please take care of them, because for your health, your stomach has to work properly. It sets the foundation for the pH levels in your body. pH levels, when they're off, lead to dis-ease situations, severe illness. And it's very often to just put up with that pain in the neck. We just put up with it. And I'm saying, stop it.
Mm-hmm. I think this is the perfect place to bring in the ear rub, which is one of the tools that we learn in Touch for Health. Denise, do you want to do a little bit with that?
Well, sure, I can. Can I ask you first, because I've done a bit of talking now, why do you feel that the ear rub is such a powerful Touch for Health tool? And then I'll demonstrate it.
Okay. So for me, the ear rub, we have a couple things happening. So one, when we massage the ear, we have all the points, the acupuncture points that go around and through the ear, which link to every system in the body. So that rub is inspiring everything to engage. The other part for me is when people find that fluidity in their neck, everything opens up and the spine immediately responds. And so if, just as you were describing about what your mom said about, pull your shoulders back and stand up, you can't do that if that neck is not in the right place. But when you rub the ears, it just gives this freedom to the neck to get that openness, and all of a sudden, the spine can respond. So is that what you were thinking about?
Yeah, I wanted some of that background about how all this magical seeming stuff is happening, but it is all tied to either the meridian system or reflex points that talk to the nerves. So as I demonstrated before, I'm going to invite all our listeners to follow along. This is going to take about 30 seconds or so. Can you first take a measurement, turn your head and see how far can you turn one way? What do you spot out of the corner of your eye? And then come back to center and pause there for a second. And then go the other way and see how far you can go. And notice if one side there's more pulling or if there's a limitation, if it's not equal. And then what we're going to do is, if you just want to open up your ears for hearing better, you can look straight forward and you are going to try to unroll the edges of the top of your ear and pull the whole ear away from your head. And then you're going to go all the way down to the earlobe. So we can do it that way.
And you're doing both hands at the same time.
You can do both
ear
hands.
on the same.
That's right. Do both ears. This is really helping, especially if you're paying attention to what are you hearing right now, because you're activating your nervous system to say, what sounds am I hearing? And it combines that with this release of all the tension on these points in the ear. Now, if you want to work with those reflexes in the neck, if you're going to turn right, activate your right ear and repeat that process. Turn your head as far to the right as you can as you unroll with the edge of your thumb and pull with your fingertips, your thumb pinched together lightly. Don't hurt yourself. Just activate the top to the bottom of your ear at least 3 times and breathe. And you're probably going to feel your ear feels really warm, as you'll notice mine's quite pink now. Got lots of circulation there. Now turn the other way, turn left, and repeat the unrolling and pulling of your ear all the way from the front part of the ear up to the top, all the way down to the earlobe, and pull, unroll, and pull. And have the edge of your thumb rubbing along all that part inside your ear that you can reach without, you're not going to stick your finger in your ear canal. There's a whole bunch of these points right there on that surface of the ear, just on the inside of the ear, right up where it begins.
Are they
Take a
around?
deep breath. Now, repeat the measurement. Turn your head one way. Notice if you're moving any more easily, any further. Pause in the center. Go, oh, yes, I'm turning more. And there's all the tension I was feeling. It's just about gone. So I know that I will repeat that activity before I continue with my day, because the neck controls pretty much a whole bunch of stuff. That's my very simple scientific wrap. Is that the demonstration you were hoping for?
That's perfect. And I wanted to bring in the part of the spine. So when you turn your head to see how far you can see, after you've rubbed your ear, you may notice that your belly moves with you. And that belly is now turning the spine as well as the neck. When we first start and we look, it's usually an isolated movement, and the spine really isn't involved, but it changes. And so the connections that we have in those parts of the ear integrates, so you have this whole body movement, and there's where the spine and the neck are combined together. And then the power of those two working in unison. So thank you, Denise. That's perfect. And I know, go ahead, Kate.
I'd also notice that your eyes get clearer. That's what happened for me. So it's not just your ears, it's like your sight. You're draining through this area, and I just noticed that I could see clearer.
Yeah.
I had one student in a Touch for Health 1 class where we teach this very early on, so everybody can hear and absorb the teaching of what we're teaching for the weekend. But we did that, and she made this exclamation and said that was worth the price of admission. Just the release in her upper traps. And I show this often when there's a network event and they need a little filler. They go, Denise, show us that ear rub thing. So please, I invite you to show this to the people in your lives who are struggling. And yes, it can, we originally learned it, just turn your head, keep everything else still. And like you said, Michelle, which you taught me this, is, oh, do you notice now that your tummy's kind of engaging? And I've taken it further and I went, what if we twisted the whole spine and did the neck rub? And that does a lot of cool stuff. So I've extended from where I've learned it, purely just turn the neck. And I have been working with the whole spine, but I hadn't, before you mentioned it, Michelle, do the gentle noticing of, notice how the upper and lower parts of your body are working in a unit the way they were designed, but we have blocked with the style of living that we do.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And that's a perfect way to say it, in the way that we've been living. And those habits that we get, that we adopt, don't know why we have them, but how easily you can change that, because, just rubbing your ear first thing in the morning before you sit down at your computer, you get yourself all primed for what you're going to do. You don't have to be living the way you have been living. You can change it, and you can change it so easily. Yeah.
Quick story, because an application of this goes for long haul truckers. I had a couple of them as clients, and I taught them this because after what Dr. Thie said, he said, oh, this is great for muscle release of your shoulders and neck. And so I had these two guys, and they're so funny. They would call me and says, what was that you said? How was that with the ears? And so they would both be rubbing their ears. I could just picture this in a truck stop. And they would be rubbing their ears, and they would breathe, and the tension would just suck, because they were long haul truckers. And and when I've traveled across country, that is the one tool that I use, technique I do all the time, is I'm rubbing my ears so that I don't have shoulder and neck pain because my hands were on the steering wheel. So, but my truckers, it was great. I had a whole bunch of them, and they're on the CBs telling each other how to rub points and do rolled ears. So that's a great thing for application, not just sitting in an office or working on a computer and whatever, but it's driving, just driving, creates so much tension in the upper back and shoulders. So that's a great application for the ear roll.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So I want to go from there, Kate, into posture and performance. And I know you've got that chart behind you. When we are rubbing different neurolymphatic points, it's engaging certain muscles, organ system, meridian, and that changes the posture, as we've just discovered with the ear rub, and the way that we can perform. So do you want to talk a little bit about the power of those neurolymphatics? And maybe you could give us an example of rubbing one that we would be able to explore what happens with it.
Well, my stories. Performance. As I have many times talked about the Iron Man, but when you look at performance, again, bilateral symmetry. And if you watch people walk, do you see bilateral symmetry? In posture, it's still about the legs also. So if I have one duck walk and one straight, that's a postural issue that's going to radiate all the way up the spine into the neck. If I rub the core muscles, which would be my psoas, my diaphragm, and my quadratus lumborum, which kidneys, digestive issues, we're looking at the symmetry in the lung so that we balance that low back. And those three muscles will shift and change all the way down to the feet if you rub those points. So you look at those as organs, muscles, and the neurons and all the nerves that integrate along the spine all the way up that go out to the organs and then relate to the muscles themselves. In the Touch for Health chart, we see all the different things that can happen. So here's small intestine, which is my quadriceps. Okay, so I'm rubbing underneath my rib cage firmly and feeling my quads, thank you, Denise, and rubbing underneath to get my quads to refresh and drain. And it works rather rapidly. I was at a aerobics conference doing this stuff. And one of the things I did is I had a treadmill and I put this person on the treadmill and I said, okay, run for 2-3 minutes till you feel the burn. And so he did. And then I said, now I want you to rub underneath your rib cage until the burn's gone. And how fast does it happen? And he says, whoa, it's gone. Now get on the treadmill and run till you just know that it's going to happen. Rub so that you never feel the burn. That's what I taught. So if you rub these points, and let me see, where's kidney? Kidney, here's kidney. So your psoas muscle, let me find him, is up here, and it's a front core muscle. So come on, Denise. It's a front core muscle, and it's 1 inch out from the navel and into the center, and you rub that point. But that's also a water point. The kidneys move water. So if I'm running, so what am I going to do when I rub the psoas? I'm going to drink because I can filter, and that's going to help me stay hydrated too. And the kidneys don't shut down because they don't get enough hydration. And then the lung is the diaphragm. So I'm rubbing on the sternum, straight on the sternum, the whole thing. And that's going to keep my diaphragm relaxed so that I don't get a stitch in my side when I'm running. And so you rub these firmly. They're not a light rub. This is a deep lymphatic drain. And so you never have any kind of buildup in the body. And that's why performance and stamina increases, because they have these tools that keeps them going. One of my athletes, when we first wrote Sports Touch, went to the Canadian Ironman, David. He was in the book. He does all the poses for me, and we went to try it out, and he didn't do as well as he wanted to, but he said, I had a secret weapon. I could rub all these points, which would help me get there. I didn't do as well as I wanted to, but I didn't quit because I had this tool that would help me get my body to keep going. And he finished okay, but it was a good example of how to get there and not feel you got to stop and quit. That was the important thing. And so then, of course, we went to Hawaii, and that's where the biggest transitions helped. When you, no matter whether you're an athlete, an artist, or anybody, you will find somebody that does this stuff. Or you pick up a Touch for Health book and you look at the neurolymphatics and the neurovasculars, and you see what all our geniuses, as I have said before, from George Goodhart to Dr. Chapman's reflexes, Dr. Bennett for the neurovasculars, and you look at, there's a lot, and look at Tesla and look at Rife. They created frequencies that are all part of this because every cell in your body has a frequency. And we muscle test that. We test the muscles, which are cells. And that frequency is within that muscle. And if that muscle isn't responding well, then the frequency of that muscle is not 100% either. It's 100% of the nerve, and it's the frequency within that. You are a walking electrical person. And if those frequencies and tuners and the proprioceptors are not responding, the endpoints, then it's because there's a short somewhere. It's just like being in a house and you have a blackout, you got a short. Well, posture creates a short. If you're not bilateral symmetry, if you don't have that, if you're bent over or your neck's like this all the time and you're hunched over your cell phone and a computer, it irks me to no end when I see children with cell phones like this, just bent over like this. And I look at their necks and I see the strain and the memory. I see cognitive. I see blood flow. I see everything from just posture. It is so prevalent in this society right now that we're so technically oriented, but we don't get up and stretch. We don't get up and move around, but we're glued to these things. Except your hands all the way here. And so that's what we can do, and that's what people can do for themselves too. So health is at your fingertips. I coined that in the 80s, and I still today, health at your fingertips, because you have these and you can rub all these points that are on this chart and everything will respond. The body's waiting for you. It knows. That's one of the most fascinating things about all of this is that we have all these secret maps in us. You know, it's like acupuncture is thousands of years old, yet they've proven that those meridians exist. So the energy flow is there. You're one big ball of energy. And you got to keep it. So aging, yeah, we could say aging, but rub points and your quality of life changes just by detoxifying, increasing the energy flow, sparking that nerve to get going, you know, changes the cell dynamics of the chemistry within your body. All of that changes we are beyond the physical, but the physical is part of it. And when you change the dynamics, the physical responds and forgets that they had pain or that there was the imbalance because it adjusted. And that's the magic and the gift of this work that those gentlemen brought us. Yes, great.
So let's shift from exactly what you just finished with is what was brought to us. And Denise, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit. We've talked about Touch for Health, and we've talked about the knowledge that it provides. And I'm so grateful, Kate, that you put the poster up for today.
You're welcome.
But Denise, you've also taken it into Muscle Tuners International, and you've brought around a system that has been able to tweak and expand in certain areas. And I'd really like for the listeners to know about how you've taken that Touch for Health base knowledge and then enhanced it so that it's even easier for people to be able to utilize these techniques.
Yes.
Well, thanks for the opportunity and the shout out for my work, because Kate has talked about the original chiropractors who were putting things together, having accidental discoveries and persisting, and then noticing, wow, this is working not only for Joe Smith, but for all these other, people that are coming in for this condition. And isn't that why? And that level of observation, I've had an opportunity to hear Dr. George Goodhart speak. And, he's going, people thought that we were really smart coming up with this. He says, no, it was bloody luck. And I'm going, oh, he's so humble. What they were doing is observing something was happening.
Yes.
All of a sudden, muscles are switching on when somebody's turning their head this way. That they weren't working a minute ago, but now they're working because the neck and the head are what's going on with that? So they tracked this all down over years and years. A small group of them expanded and became a thing. And that inspired me to notice when I was doing some work, something more was happening. So we came up with a correction, because when you get into body work, we understand after a period of time that emotions get trapped in our tissues. And we sought a way to release emotional gunk, burdens, whatever you want to call it, without doing talk therapy. Because, we're not psychotherapists, but everybody's got emotional stuff that they've not processed. Show me one human being who hasn't got something that they've just went, I'll deal with that another day, and then forgotten about it. I'm here to tell you, your body is keeping the score. It is trying to help you manage that, and you have no idea it's stuck in your tissues. So in Muscle Tuners, we've come up with dynamic muscle. It was originally dynamic muscle reset, because we thought we were working with the muscles. Then I started noticing, I won't go into the whole story, started noticing things. And I realized, cross-referencing it with other training that I'm, very well versed in. Oh, this is doing way more than just muscles. This is working with tendons.
Mm-hmm.
It's releasing the stress on ligaments. It's supporting the vascular flow to that muscle. It's supporting the lymphatic flow, specifically, like directly, hey, wake up, stop being sluggish. And the neurological communication was actually, we're focusing on wake up. And it's the simplest technique. And people who have studied Touch for Health have come back and said, I almost exclusively only use your correction now because it does so much. And I only have to remember one correction per meridian. And there's 14 of them. And I went, well, thank you very much. So getting lots of feedback of how this works. And there are things in Touch for Health that I never appreciated enough when I first started learning. I just thought, oh, we got to do all that pre-set up stuff so we can get to the fun stuff of muscle testing and correcting things by activating reflexes. And I learned that some of the very, very basics are absolutely profound. And then I was humbly slapped in the head when I was teaching a class pre-pandemic. We used to do, after the online portion, we used to go do in-person events. And we would watch, make sure everybody's doing everything safely, everybody get their answers, questions answered, go a little bit deeper in the lecture about the why and the what's going on. And one of the most profound corrective techniques, there's two of them, is gait reset. And we call it gait mechanism reset, and that's the walking gait. We talked about that the last episode. And also reactive muscles. So if you've got a muscle that reacts when somebody else is being used, it's like you're going to notice you've got a problem. So I'm teaching and I'm demonstrating the gait mechanism reset, send the class out to go and work with their partners and practice. So everybody's gotten their gait mechanisms all fired up, body coordination, walking, posture, everything's just doing gorgeous. And then the next unit after the break was, okay, let's do the reactive muscles now. And there was nobody in the room that had a reactive muscle except for our assistant behind the desk, because she hadn't participated in the gates resets. So I had to do the demo on her. And it's like just the material in Touch for Health that we have copyright use agreement with the owner of the Touch for Health trademark to be utilizing some of this foundational information in our program. But then we, like you said, we extended it to do more. And we teach people a system that's so simple. You just follow the system and magic will happen. And it encourages people not to focus on, oh, you've got a sore shoulder. Let's just work with all the muscles around the shoulder. The system encourages working holistically, because you never know when the thing down there fixes the thing up there until you do it. And people go, wow, why didn't you do that sooner? So that's a little bit about the knowledge that I've derived, and I applaud and shout out to as often as I can from Touch for Health. And unfortunately, there's less people teaching this these days for various different reasons. So you have to dig. You can look online and find associations and some members. And there's a lot of members don't want to be on an online directory. So ask around, check with massage therapists in your neighborhood if you're looking to find somebody who does Touch for Health, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have trained, and they mainly do it for themselves, their friends, their families. And there are people that have brought it in as a professional adjunct to something else they're doing, like massage or just many other things. And if you're really, really desperate, you could always reach out to Kate. She knows where everybody in the U.S. is parked in little corners very quietly. Michelle and I know of a lot of them in Canada who they've just stepped back, but they're still working quietly. And the other day, somebody invited me to do a presentation this Saturday, and she put out a message, and I got a messenger message going, are you the woman that did that amazing body work out of this day spa around like year 2000? And I went, yep, that was me. She says, phenomenal. So I'm going to see her this Saturday. So literally 25 years after I touched her life.
Wow. Wow.
Because I don't advertise locally. I don't advertise, and I do all word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Basically, my own personal clinical website, I don't have one anymore. You can find me through muscletuners.ca, that's where I'm focusing on training other people. And rather working on one-on-one, I'm looking to get ripples going in the world. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about that. It just brings coordination into your life. It brings strength. It improves your overall health. You've heard me before talk about muscles are connected to our organs. Let's take care of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Beautiful. All right. I'm going to bring Kate in. We're just coming up to the end of the podcast, but I want, Kate, you've mentioned sports touch. And so you've taken the Touch for Health background that you had, the massage therapy, naturopathic work that you've done, and you created that book with an athletic ritual. And as we look at posture and we look at alignment of the spine and the neck, can you share a little bit about what's inside that book, so we have a feel for the programming that you've also been developing?
Well, In 1984, I left respiratory therapy. So I'd done that for 14 years and I knew how to breathe and I taught breathing. And so when I went into massage therapy and would assess, and this is before Touch for Health, if anything, but one of the things I noticed was that a lot of people didn't know how to breathe. There was so much stress in the world, and I had my own, but I learned to belly breathe, to breathe deep and use the diaphragm. But when I went to school for massage and I would watch my patient or client on the table, is that I would ask them to breathe and they were all up here in their chest. So every time they took a breath, it was like that. And you could see the chest muscles move, but you didn't see the belly move at all. And so that was the foundation. My experience as an RT, that was the very first chapter, how to breathe correctly. And so I put that as number one, because if you don't breathe, you don't oxygenate and nothing moves in the body. It's like one of the things that's interesting when we talk about low back issues and posture is one of the very first things that happens if you have back pain, you stop breathing because it hurts to breathe if you have low back pain because it's one of the core muscles. And so that's why you have to look at that is think that that's part of, healing the back pain is that you got to look at the core. So when I started looking at sports touch, I thought, well, okay, well, we're doing athletes, but then I looked at the immune system and how can I keep my athletes healthy? So we went through, balancing the sacrum and rubbing points for the 2-minute energy balance. And that had switching in it and eye movements and ear rolls, and it had all this stuff in it that they could do. And my athletes used to tell me I don't get sick when I do this. So when they would rub, and they were more focused. So they weren't switched. So they were sitting in a cross crawl with their brain instead of homolateral patterning. And so that was another big thing. And that really helped a lot of the athletes that I worked with. And then we move into acupuncture, acupressure points, specific ones. And one of the big ones that everybody who's watching this should do is look at CV17. And it's my barometer of energy or chi in the body. I can always tell how energy is moving down through the body. And it's dead center, nipple line right on the chest, right in the center. And you can feel like a little indentation there. And if it's sore to your touch, that means energy's blocked. It's not moving up and down that conception vessel. And that's your brain. That meridian is your brain. And that's also a point for breathing. It's a lung meridian. It's not a meridian, but it's a point for breathing. Like if you touch this on somebody, they go, "Ugh!" and they jump back and they breathe. It's a jump starter. And so that's a really good one. And then you have large intestine 4, which I labeled as a go point. It's a go. It gets you moving. And I would give it to my athletes to say, if you've got everything moving in the gut, large intestine 4 is going to move you. Stomach 36 is another one on the leg. And so we went through a whole bunch of them. And I put specific acupressure points in the book so that they could run through them, whether they were calming down points after they raced or the go ones. So there was a method to everything of how you would get through this. And then there was stretches, how to do certain stretches correctly for the muscles, and David demonstrates all those all the way through 10 pages. But then there's the rituals that I created. And when I did the last version of this book, when I was living down in North Carolina, I wasn't going to rewrite this book, but it happened. When it's sort of, somebody says, we're going to change that, we're going to add to it. And so my friend Rick, who was my editor, and I just started writing rituals. And I added like 10 different ones to the book. So I tried to encompass anything and everything, not only the Ironman, which the Ironman is the core one in this, because you have athletes that are talking about what happened to them and how they used it, and you hear their results. But then the other rituals, you have a daily ritual of things to do that you can take and do from picking out from chapters, the breathing, the rocking on the sacrum, and getting everything aligned with the 2-minute energy balance, and you do all that. But then you look at the neurolymphatics and the neurovasculars, and you look at what's my ritual? Is it a baseball ritual? Is it a basketball ritual? I have a football ritual in there too. And the soccer ritual, which I found very interesting when I worked with San Diego Sea Lions, a women's soccer team. I was invited to come with a friend of mine, and I discovered they all had long legs, short legs. Why? Because you plant that left leg and you kick with the right, which shortens that right leg. But secret is that the pubic symphysis ligament that goes across the pubic bone gets overstretched and it gets lax. Well, if you put, and I had them on the table, so I was doing this to all of them, and you have them laying down, you put your feet flat on, and your knees are tight together, and you have them squeeze, and you try to pull them out to isometric contraction. And that tightened up that pubic symphysis ligament. And they no longer had a long leg, short leg. I got to drink some water. I'm not talking. But they no longer had a long leg, short leg. And they all saw it. And I did the whole team. And I showed them how to do this. Simple little exercise, simple little stretch to tighten up that ligament. And when I was in Australia, I ended up doing the Eagles, which was their premier soccer team at that time, the winner of everything. And we had a young man. It's interesting in soccer is that you don't get, in Australia, you didn't get paid unless you played. So here was this very tall athlete who hurt his back and he was long leg, short leg too. And so I started muscle testing, and there was a bunch of physios over on the far side watching me. And I was muscle testing this kid all the way down, releasing muscles, rubbing points and everything. And then he stood up and walked. And the look on his face was pure joy. He goes, "Hey, coach, I can play now." Because he wasn't in pain, and I showed him what to do. And anyway, I ended up doing the whole team later on because nobody else knew how to do this stuff. And Australia is known for its touch for health too, and things, but nobody was working with these teams. That was amazing to me. So I had the whole soccer team rubbing points and doing things, and that was a wonderful thing. And we did the pubic symphysis ligament stretch too, the isometrics, and we helped keep them from having hip distortions.
And how can people find your book, Kate?
You can find it on Amazon. It's there. Just go look for Sports Touch.
Sports Touch, the Athletic Ritual.
Well, it's not this. When the new book came out, we just shortened it to Sports Touch. The old book was Athletic Ritual, but it's just Sports Touch by me, and you can find it on Amazon. So, but it's really easy to follow. It's all pictures and graphics, and there's just a lot. I think one of the good ones in there is the jet lag ritual. So I had a lot of athletes doing that for time of day so that they didn't have problems when they crossed the international date line when they were traveling to Europe or going someplace else. So there's a lot of information in that book that I took out of everything that I've ever learned. So yeah, I'm very proud of the book. It's a good book.
Yeah. Well, and too, it caters to so many different people.
Yes, it does.
So I think our message to those people listening is, first of all, these things are simple. Second, they can be activated right away in your day, and you don't have to wait until something falls apart. You can fix it, get it in alignment, and then function well, rather than functioning suboptimally and then waiting until The body has to show you a sign, which is usually pain, to get you to pay attention. So you can be ahead of the game with that. And as you think about this trilogy and what we've shown you about how pain works, how you can adjust and move yourself from this pain story, there are so many simple tools ready for you. And we hope that we've inspired you to think differently about what you're doing and to look for the resources that are available to you that you can function from there. The last one that I want to bring forward is I do want to shine a light on the Canadian Association of Bioenergetic Wellness. So Can Be Well. There's canbewell.org. And on the main page, we have 2 books there. One is Bioenergetic Essentials. Some of these tools we've talked about are in that book, and you can download that. And then the second one is World Mental Health Day, our journal from the 2025 event, and all the tips and tools that have been shared by the people who presented for that. And we had 12 amazing presenters. So there are a lot of resources available. And then, of course, you can find someone to work with and study with. And that's so important. So as we finish off today, I just want to bring forward the idea of releasing that warrior, the ritual of reminding yourself that you do not have to be traveling down the trajectory that you are, where you wait until things happen before you take action, but rather you decide to connect and adjust and make things the best that you can for you, and take a good deep breath. Make sure that neck can turn all the way that you want it, and that you're able then to move forward with a relationship in your body that has harmony for the elements, the organs, the meridians, the muscles, the tissues. And then, of course, emotion. But emotion is what we'll be talking in the next trilogy. And we invite you to join us as we explore a deep dive into some of the emotions that probably show up every day for you. All right, ladies, thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to the next place. Thank you. Be well, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michelle Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, linktr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontea.ca. Have a wonderful day.